The convention hall will come to order. We're now holding the first delegate business session of the 90th National FFA Convention and Expo. Madam Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call the roll of officers, determine if they are at their stations, and report back to you, Mr. President. The Sentinel.
Stationed by the door.
Your duties there.
Through this door pass many friends of the FFA. It is my duty to see that the door is open to our friends at all times and that they are welcome. I care for the meeting room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the room comfortable and assist the President in maintaining order.
The reporter.
The reporter is stationed by the flag.
Why by the flag?
As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people in order that every man, woman, and child may know that the FFA is a national organization that reaches from the state of Alaska to the Virgin Islands and from the state of Maine to Hawaii.
The treasurer.
Stationed at the emblem of Washington.
Your duties there.
I keep a record of receipts and disbursements, just as Washington kept his farm accounts, carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among the members and strive to build up our financial standing through savings and investments. George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent.
The secretary.
Stationed by the ear of corn.
Your duties there.
I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretaries. Wherever corn is grown and FFA members meet.
The advisor.
Here by the owl.
Why stationed by the owl?
The owl is a time-honored emblem of knowledge and wisdom. Being older than the rest of you, I'm asked to advise you from time to time as the need arises. I hope that my advice will always be based on true knowledge and ripened with wisdom. Madam Vice President, why do you keep a plow at your station?
The plow is the symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. My duties require me to assist at all times in directing the work of our organization. I preside over meetings in the absence of our president, whose place is beneath the rising sun.
Why is the President so stationed?
The rising sun is the token of a new era in agriculture. If we will follow the leadership of our president, we shall be led out of the darkness of selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Mr. President, all officers are at their stations.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Secretary will call the roll of members.
As I call each state, would the state president please rise, wait for a microphone to be brought to you, and then announce the number of delegates present at this session. Please only announce the number of delegates physically seated at the time your state is called. If you have delegates who aren't present but will be arriving shortly, do not include them in the account. Those delegates should check in here at the Secretary station when they arrive. When your state president announces the number in your delegation, the entire state delegation should rise. Alabama.
The state of Alabama proudly seats 10 delegates.
Alaska.
The state of Alaska has 2.
Arizona.
Proudly representing the Grand Canyon State, Arizona seats 7 delegates.
Arkansas.
The state of Arkansas is proudly seating 9 delegates.
California.
California has 52 ready-to-vote delegates.
Colorado.
Colorful Colorado has 5 voting delegates.
Connecticut.
The great state of Connecticut proudly has 4 delegates.
Delaware.
From the great first state, home of our national president, David Townsend, the state of Delaware proudly seats 4 delegates.
Florida.
The state of Florida proudly seats 12 delegates.
Georgia.
Georgia has 25 delegates present.
Hawaii.
Representing the Aloha State, the state of Hawaii proudly seats 2 delegates.
Idaho.
The state of Idaho seats 5 delegates.
Illinois.
Proudly representing the land of Lincoln, the state of Illinois seats 12 delegates.
Indiana.
The state of Indiana and the home state of Fault in Our Stars author John Green proudly seats 9 delegates.
Iowa.
From the state that is 75% vowels and 100% awesome, Iowa is proudly represented by 11 delegates.
Kansas.
Kansas proudly seats 6 delegates.
Kentucky.
Kentucky proudly seats 10 delegates.
Louisiana.
The Boot, also known as Louisiana, proudly seats 7 delegates.
Maine.
Maine seats two delegates.
Maryland.
The state of Maryland proudly has 3 delegates.
Massachusetts.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts seats 3 delegates.
Michigan.
Michigan proudly seats 5 delegates.
Minnesota.
Minnesota seats 8 delegates.
Mississippi.
The state of Mississippi proudly seats 4 delegates.
Missouri.
"90 years ago, the Show Me state hosted the very first National FFA Convention. Today, Missouri proudly seats 16 delegates.
Montana. Nebraska.
The state of Nebraska humbly seats 7 delegates.
Nevada.
The state of Nevada proudly seats 4 delegates.
New Hampshire.
The state of New Hampshire proudly seats 2 delegates.
New Jersey.
From the state that brought you the first National FFA president, New Jersey proudly seats 3 delegates.
New Mexico.
The state of New Mexico proudly seats 4 delegates.
New York.
The state of New York, home to Mrs. Hughes' Cheesecake, proudly seats 4 delegates.
North Carolina.
From the Great Smoky Mountains to the most beautiful beaches in America, North Carolina proudly seats 13 delegates.
North Dakota.
North Dakota, home of the Miss America, proudly seats 5 delegates.
Ohio.
The state of Ohio, home of the FFA jacket, proudly sits 15 delegates.
Oklahoma.
Red Dirt Rowdy, Oklahoma proudly seats 17 delegates.
Oregon.
The state of Oregon proudly seats 6 delegates.
Pennsylvania. Puerto Rico.
De la Isla del Encanto, Puerto Rico, we have 4 delegates.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island seats 2 delegates.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, the Palmetto State, proudly seats 6 delegates.
South Dakota.
From the Mount Rushmore state that brought you Bob Barker and Brock Lesnar, South Dakota proudly seats 4 delegates.
Tennessee.
The volunteer state of Tennessee proudly seats 10 delegates.
Texas.
Texas, 71.
Utah.
The Beehive state of Utah proudly seats 6 delegates.
Vermont.
The state of Vermont proudly seats 2 delegates.
Virginia.
The Commonwealth of Virginia proudly seats 6 delegates.
Virgin Islands. Washington.
The state that brought you Starbucks and our first female national officer, the state of Washington, proudly sits 8 delegates.
West Virginia.
The country roads of West Virginia brings you 5 wild and wonderful delegates.
Wisconsin.
From America's Dairyland, Wisconsin proudly seats 14 delegates.
Wyoming.
Last but certainly not least, the Cowboy State seats 4 delegates.
Mr. President, after adjusting for Indiana and North Carolina leaving for their state photos, I am pleased to announce that at the first business session of the 90th National FFA Convention and Expo, we have 433 delegates seated.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. According to Article 12, Section B of our Constitution, let it be known that 433 official delegates are duly seated at the first delegate business session of the 90th National FFA Convention and Expo. According to Article 12, Section B of the National FFA Constitution, a quorum of 238 delegates and 26 state associations must be present before official business can be conducted by the Delegate Assembly. Having met those requirements, we shall move forward. FFA members, why are we here? To practice brotherhood, honor agricultural opportunities and responsibilities, and develop those qualities of leadership which an FFA member should possess. May we accomplish our purposes. I now declare this first delegate business session of the 90th National FFA Convention and Expo duly open for the transaction of business or attention to any matters which may properly be presented. It is a pleasure to welcome you to one of the most exciting events of the National FFA Convention Expo, our delegate business sessions. For 90 years, student leaders of the National FFA organization have met each fall. They have bestowed degrees, adopted policies, and brought forth both drastic and subtle change throughout the history of our organization. These students have been the voice of thousands, and today it's our turn. We represent not only our local chapters and home states, but all FFA members. We are representing nearly 650,000 FFA members today and millions that will wear the jacket in the future. You are part of an elite group in this organization. Those who have come before us have provided great leadership, and my hope is that we will do the same. Since July, many hours of work have been dedicated to this process, and your work this week has been outstanding. I challenge you during these business sessions to represent the interests of all FFA members and show respect to your peers who are doing the same. FFA members will benefit from our work at this convention, and I hope you benefit from the lifelong friendships and mutual respect that will result from this process. Please, in the interest of time and fairness, listen intently to all speakers around you. If your perspective has already been established by another speaker, please refrain from repeating it. It is worth noting that these reports are recommendations only. What is approved today will not immediately take effect. They are recommendations to the National FFA Management Team and the National FFA Board of Directors. Either group can choose to take action on these recommendations, send them back through the delegate process for further review, or direct a National FFA staff to administer changes independently. This is not a parliamentary procedure contest, and I don't pretend to be a registered parliamentarian, nor is it an exercise in debate. Likewise, this is not a competition to see how many times your name will appear in the minutes. The purpose of this session is to conduct the business of our organization and set the direction that will positively impact local agricultural education programs and FFA chapters. In case there are any parliamentary procedure questions, we have the service of a parliamentarian. Serving the organization for 8 consecutive years, this is Dr. Barry Glazer. Dr. Glazer is a certified professional parliamentarian with the American Institute of Parliamentarians. Thank you, Dr. Glazer, for your dedication and assistance to the FFA. Article 16 of the National FFA Constitution states that the rules contained in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern the National FFA organization in all cases which they are applicable. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, 11th edition, states that 2/3 and majority votes shall be calculated based on the number of votes cast, which may not always total the number of seated delegates. At delegate registration, you received 2 voting placards. With your state abbreviation printed clearly on one side. They look like this: one green one, one red one. Please take a couple of seconds to locate these cards. If you do not have them, or if they were not distributed to you, please use the yellow placard that is in your sign to motion that you would like to discuss. If you choose to gain recognition from the chair, please hold up one of the placards with your state abbreviation facing me and wait to be recognized. Utilize the green placard to make a motion in favor or offer discussion in favor of a pending motion. Use the red placard if your discussion is in opposition to the pending motion. What questions are there about the use of these placards? Pretty simple stuff. We will now begin the transaction of business. Please refer to page 59 in your delegate resource book for the delegate business session agenda. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the 2016 National FFA Convention. Each of you has received a copy of the minutes in your delegate resource books. They begin on page 60. Additionally, the minutes have been posted on FFA.org since January of this year. Would anyone care to note changes or additions needed to last year's minutes? The chair recognizes the delegate from Wisconsin.
I move to amend the minutes to change Wisconsin's number of delegates written on page 60 of that delegate handbook from 15 delegates to 14 delegates.
Thank you. Could we please have your name as well?
Sierra Balmer.
Thank you. That will go in the minutes. Shall we, by general consent, edit the minutes from the 2016 National FFA Convention? If there are no objections, this will stand edited and corrected. There being no other changes to the minutes, they'll stand approved as corrected. We will now move to standing committee reports. The National FFA Officer Team is asked to serve on the organization's Auditing Committee and the Program of Activities Committee. These reports were included in the packets you picked up from the delegate headquarters yesterday. Please take a couple of seconds to locate them. The chair calls upon the Eastern Region Vice President, Ashley Willits, to present the Auditing Committee report.
The National FFA Auditing Committee, consisting of the 6 National FFA officers as per the National FFA Constitution, met with Nancy Trivett, National FFA Treasurer, and David Shapker, Chief Financial Officer for the National FFA Organization, on Monday, October 23, 2017, to review the audit report completed by BKD LLP. The 2016 audit was completed in April of 2017 and was reviewed by the National FFA officers and the Board of Directors at the May 2017 board meeting. The audit covered the period of January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. It was a clean audit and was approved by the Board of Directors. The committee reviewed the September 2017 internal financial statements with Ms. Trivett, Mr. Shapker, and members of the National FFA staff and Board of Directors earlier this week. The next audit will be completed in the spring of 2018. The audit report for the year ending December 31st, 2017 will be reviewed by the Board of Directors, including student officers, at the May 2018 board meeting. The committee makes no recommendations. Respectfully submitted, Ashley Willits, Chair.
Thank you, Ashley. You have heard the Auditing Committee report, and since the National FFA officers are not official delegates to this convention, the Chair will now entertain a motion to adopt the committee report as read. The Chair recognizes the delegate from New Hampshire.
My name is Dustin Peterson. I move that we accept the Auditing Committee report as read.
Thank you. Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate from West Virginia.
My name's Hunter Smitley, and I second this motion.
Please repeat your name.
Hunter Smitley.
Is there discussion? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of this motion to approve the Auditing Committee report as read, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. The ayes have it, motion passes. The Auditing Committee report will stand as read. Thank you again, Ashley. Each year, our organization is led by 6 individuals who travel more than 100,000 miles each in service to FFA members. My teammates and I have had the honor of serving you in this capacity over the past year. Throughout our travels, we interact with stakeholders of all types, from members to advisors to alumni to state staff to sponsors. Each year, the National FFA officer team is asked to provide recommendations to the organization through the National FFA program of activities. The Chair now calls upon our Central Region Vice President, Valerie Early, to present the report of the Program of Activities Committee for your approval.
The Committee for the National Program of Activities recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas there are discrepancies among states as well as between the state and national levels of the organization as to the SAE projects awarded or eligible for degrees, therefore be it resolved that universal standards be developed or improved for the type of project eligible for an award or proficiency, maintaining consistency from state to state. Whereas middle school members have few offered experiences and opportunities for awards at the national level. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA organization evaluate programs for inclusion and middle school members. And be it further resolved that the organization enhance the overall experience of middle school members through additional conferences, career and leadership development events, and other awards. Whereas supervised agricultural experience programs lack consistent priority and quality, and whereas the National Council for Agricultural Education's SAE for All guides are useful tools for FFA advisors and members. Therefore, be it resolved that training and promotion for use of the SAE for All guides be developed to improve hands-on student experiences. Whereas requirements for awards and degrees earned through unpaid SAEs are increasingly difficult. Therefore, be it resolved that National FFA staff explore avenues for including unpaid SAE projects for degree attainment. Whereas career and leadership development events are evaluated on a 5-year rotation for relevancy to industry needs, and whereas industry professionals provide relevancy for skills attained through these events. Therefore, be it resolved that industry stakeholders remain an integral part of CDE and LDE evaluation. And be it further resolved that some forms of evaluation of CDEs and LDEs occur more frequently than every 5 years. Whereas the cost of FFA programs does not align with revenue derived from such programs, be it resolved that National FFA staff explores opportunities to re-evaluate the costs associated with programs to ensure that such programs remain sustainable. Whereas there is not enough emphasis placed on the importance of an effective alumni affiliate, be it resolved that the National FFA organization further advocates the value of having a local alumni chapter, and be it further resolved that FFA provides resources for alumni to aid in the growth of local FFA chapters. Whereas there are limited resources for chapter members on the importance of and opportunities for advocacy at the local level. Be it resolved that National FFA staff creates educational instruction to equip local members with the knowledge and skills needed to tell the story of agriculture and FFA to local stakeholders such as school boards and community partners. Whereas online resources such as Ag Explorer and My Journey are not attractive to upper-level high school students. Be it resolved that FFA staff explores the re-evaluation of the content on these resource pages so that it provides relevant information to all high school students. Whereas alumni involvement is critical to the National FFA organization, and whereas in order to increase involvement in alumni, the National FFA organization should continue to stay in contact with members after graduation. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA organization should research ways to effectively communicate and engage with members after high school. And be it further resolved that there should be a question on the American FFA degree application that focuses on methods of engagement post-high school. Whereas FFA has several media accounts, each tailored to a different audience, and whereas information is sometimes pertinent to more than one audience. Therefore, be it resolved that FFA accounts be streamlined with only one official account per platform, with content intentionally diversified for every audience. Whereas the National FFA organization encourages interaction with non-traditional ag groups at all levels of the organization. Therefore, be it resolved that the organization continues relationships with external communications groups, including but not limited to the Glover Park Group, whose resources provide FFA with expertise, curriculum, and training. Whereas there have been many bus and van break-ins during convention. Therefore, be it resolved that national staff continue their efforts to stress the importance of securing valuables and personal property. And be it further resolved that staff work with other Indianapolis-based conventions to explore other potential security measures that could resolve this issue. Whereas crisis situations at public events and venues have become common in recent years. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA organization more transparently communicates its emergency preparedness plans on the convention website. And be it resolved that the organization be proactive in reassuring event attendees by sharing security measures after major non-FFA crisis situations transpire. Whereas the National FFA Convention online registration process is unreliable. Therefore, be it resolved the organization researches registration systems used by other organizations, whose registration size and timeline are similar to ours, in order to improve the reliability of our registration process. Whereas living to serve is a component of the FFA motto and culture. Therefore, be it resolved that FFA staff, where possible, increase the number of service opportunities and experiences offered to members during the National FFA Convention and Expo. Whereas local FFA members' interaction is beneficial to foundation visits. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA Foundation utilizes chapter members and state officers more frequently during chapter sponsor visits. Whereas local chapters and state associations rely on sponsor funding. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA Foundation establishes training and resources for local and state sponsor engagement. Whereas the National FFA Convention and Expo provides direct interaction with FFA members, and whereas sponsors are limited by their agendas during the National FFA Convention and Expo. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA Foundation continue to allocate time for sponsors to connect with FFA members at the National FFA Convention and Expo. Whereas sponsors seek to understand the impact of their support of FFA. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA Foundation collects, analyzes, and publishes data that quantifies that impact. Whereas agriculture is a nationwide industry. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA Foundation continues to prospect supporters nationwide, both within and beyond the industry of agriculture. Whereas students need to use their FFA login to enter FFA.org and access student-focused chapter leadership resources, which may be a deterrent to students using these items. Therefore, be it resolved that FFA allows for a password-saving mechanism on FFA.org, and be it further resolved that FFA reevaluate its strategy for requiring user login in order to access such resources. Whereas the National FFA organization has a wide variety of digital resources available to students, and whereas these tools are often underutilized and overlooked, and whereas leadership development is essential to FFA accomplishing its mission and vision. Therefore, be it resolved that in 2018, National FFA staff allocate more time and resources to the promotion of existing content than the development of new content. Whereas the National FFA organization is an agriculturally based organization that excels in providing leadership opportunities. Therefore, be it resolved that agricultural examples be incorporated into the curriculum for state and chapter leaders to illustrate content. Whereas many members have a production agriculture focus in high school and want to further their involvement in production agriculture. And whereas there is not a direct focus on preparing students for a career specifically in production agriculture. And whereas the New Century Farmer program has proven to be highly successful among conference participants. Therefore, be it resolved that FFA creates a 3-year strategy beginning in 2018 for preparing high school students to enter production agriculture. Whereas National FFA staff is entertaining the possibility of revising chapter officer leadership opportunities. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2016-2017 National Officer Team honors and welcomes these revisions. Whereas students are one target audience in the sale of our merchandise. Therefore, be it resolved that student opinions be actively sought and used in product research and purchasing. Whereas apparel comes in a variety of sizes and fits. And whereas online shoppers don't have the opportunity to try on apparel before making a purchase. Therefore, be it resolved that shopffa.org allows shoppers the ability to leave feedback on fit and trueness to size for each apparel item, similar to the capability that exists on the shopping sites of most apparel retailers. Whereas students are required to wear official dress, and whereas the official dress currently sold on shopffa.org is low quality, and whereas official dress accessories can only be purchased directly through the National FFA organization, therefore be it resolved that FFA makes quality and official dress available online through Shop FFA. And be it further resolved that FFA approaches retailers like Tractor Supply Company with the opportunity to carry official dress accessories such as ties, scarves, and degree chains in their brick and mortar stores, thereby increasing student access to these items. Whereas shopffa.org is not buyers' only choice for banquet supplies and awards, and whereas customers report poor quality and damaged items. Therefore, be it resolved that National FFA staff reevaluates the quality of awards being sold and increases quality control efforts. Respectfully submitted, Valerie Early, Chair.
Thank you, Valerie. You have heard the Program of Activities Committee report. The Chair will now entertain a motion to adopt the committee report as read. The Chair recognizes the delegate from Iowa.
Zach Hamilton from Iowa. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the report as read.
Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate from Wisconsin.
Sam Pinchart, I second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve this committee report as read. Is there discussion? Discussion. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving this committee report as read signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. The ayes have it, motion passes. This committee report is approved as read.
Mr. President, the Pennsylvania FFA Association has arrived and seats 8 delegates.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This morning, we will hear and discuss the committee reports courtesy of each delegate committee chair. Here is how we will proceed through this process. Throughout this session, the chair will call for a group of committee chairs. When you are called, please report to the secretary station. Committee chairs, please be sure to bring your red and green discussion placards with you in case you wish to be recognized during debate despite not being in your seats. While committee chairs are getting situated, a talent performance will entertain us. At the end of the talent performance, the first committee chair will be called to the podium to present his or her committee report. These reports can be found in the packet that you picked up from delegate headquarters yesterday. In the event that you do not have a copy of the committee report, please turn your attention to the screen behind me as the committee chair delivers the report. Once the report is submitted, there will be a 60-second pause for review. Following these 60 seconds of review, the respective chair will move to adopt the committee report as read. Motions to adopt committee reports have an implied second. The floor will be open for discussion on the motion. The discussion will rotate between those in favor and those opposed to the motion. Remember to use the correct placards. Each delegate is permitted 2 opportunities to debate each motion. Once you have been recognized, please remain at your seat and wait for a handheld microphone to be brought to you. Say your name and state clearly so the secretary can record it. You may then proceed with your discussion or question. In the event that you are proposing an amendment of more than 2 or 3 words, please complete one of the carbon copy triplicate forms to help us capture the amendment accurately. Each state association received a triplicate form at registration, and additional copies can be found at the secretary station. After being recognized by the chair, hand your triplicate form to the nearest national officer, keeping the pink copy for yourself as a reference with which to read from. When another delegate is speaking, please be respectfully listening intently and withdrawing your placard until the speaker is finished. Remember not to clap or cheer following any debate during the delegate sessions to ensure a fair process. After discussion has concluded, we will proceed to vote. Keep in mind that voting will be based on the total number of votes cast, not the total number of delegates seated. Before we begin, the chair will entertain any questions you may have. Questions? Questions? Perfect. Will the chairs of the committees for the nature and structure of delegate work and agriculture education career development event and effective communication with members please report to the secretary station at this time? As explained earlier, we will be entertained and inspired throughout convention by the talents of several FFA members from across the country. Under the direction of Mr. Dan Tidor and sponsored by Mahindra USA, Tractor Supply Company, and Wrangler, please welcome our National FFA talent.
Selecting in the dark under the moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but terror takes the sound before you make it. You start to freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes. You're paralyzed, 'cause this is
close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize y'all's neighborhood.
Thank you for your wonderful performance. That was pretty legit. I was actually kind of scared though that one of those things was going to fly out and hit me in the face. We are ready to present the first of our committee reports. I would like to remind the committee chairs to allow for 60 seconds of review prior to moving for the adoption of your report. Our first committee report will be coming from the Committee for the Nature and Structure of Delegate Work. Please welcome the chair from Virginia, Tess Seibel.
The Committee for the Nature and Structure of Delegate Work recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas additional and systematic training is needed for the delegate body to better understand the flow of the delegate process, the specific issues undertaken by the committees established, as well as the best way to delegations to represent their constituents. And whereas there is a need to reevaluate the time allotted and schedule of the delegate process to maximize the benefit of training while minimizing the time spent during the convention. And whereas there is a need to examine the committee work and assignments through the national delegate process in order to ensure the effectiveness and efficiency. And whereas there's a lack of clarity and direction for the national delegate process, and whereas there's a lack of representation on committees for the states with less than 6 delegates, and whereas there's confusion on and more research and conversation needed pertaining to the delegate process, therefore be it resolved that the National FFA organization evaluate the current trainings and determine the most effective way to have delegates receive training that includes understanding of the flow and sequence of committee work, understanding of committee issues and research, and ways to represent their states. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization reevaluate the use and training of the delegates regarding to the 6 thinking hats in committee work at National Convention. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization investigate the use of standing committees in addition to or in replacement of the current structure of committees, utilizing the sections of the current POA standing committees by the 2018 State Officer Summit. And be it further resolved that there is the creation of a mission statement for the National FFA delegate process. And be it further resolved that each state be allowed additional non-voting delegates within committees so that each state can be represented. And be it further resolved that a task force is created, chaired by the education specialist in charge of the delegate process, consisting of past national delegates, with there being at least 1 representative from each region proportionally, to evaluate the delegate process and report back by the 2018 State Officer Summit. And be it further resolved that the task reevaluate the purpose of the National FFA delegate process, determine the most effective delegate structure, including official delegate allocation, and establish the structure of committees. Respectfully submitted, Tess Seibel, Chair, Virginia FFA Association. Mr. President, I move to accept the committee report as read.
The motion has been made to adopt the committee report as read. Because this is a committee report, there's an implied second. Is there discussion? Discussion. Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of adopting the committee report as read, or approving the committee report as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion passes. Or the committee report will stand as read. Thank you, Tess. Please join me in welcoming Weston Adams of Utah to the podium to present the report on behalf of the Committee for an Agricultural Education Career Development event.
The Committee for an Agricultural Education Career Development event recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas the National FFA organization recognizes that there is a shortage of agricultural educators, and whereas the Committee for an Agricultural Education Career Development event has determined its relevancy based on industry needs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Agricultural Education Career Development event should prepare individuals for a career in agricultural education or a similar industry, in keeping with the purpose of career development events to prepare members for career success. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization assist in providing a solution by looking at multiple sources from various states to implement a national agricultural education career development event. And be it further resolved that the agricultural education career development event consists of components of the daily tasks of an agricultural educator, including but not limited to a test on agricultural education, a lesson plan, a hands-on classroom activity, and oral questions or scenarios. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization recognize and assist in the development of an agricultural education invitational competition supported by universities and other third parties. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization create a 5-year program to provide relevant statistics concerning state-level agricultural education career development events, as well as the National Invitational, in order to promote the idea of a national agricultural education career development event. Respectfully submitted, Weston Adams, Chair, Utah FFA Association.
Please take 60 seconds to review the committee report.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the committee report as read.
The motion has been made to adopt the committee report as read. Because this is a committee report, there's an implied second. Is there discussion? The chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
Mr. Chairman, I move
Please state your name.
Excuse me. Spencer Flood, Minnesota.
Thank you.
I move to amend the Committee for an Agriculture Education Career Development Events resolution by adding, whereas states are waiting for united national rules before establishing state competitions, therefore be it resolved that the National FFA organization waive the CDE policy that requires 15 states minimum to begin a new event.
Do you have that on triplicate form?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please be sure to keep the pink copy.
Yes, sir.
To restate the motion that was made to amend, the motion was made to amend the Committee for an Agricultural Career Development Events resolution by adding, whereas states are waiting for united national rules before establishing state competitions, therefore be it resolved that National FFA waive the CDE policy that requires a 15-state minimum to begin a new event. Is there a second? The chair recognizes the delegate from Wisconsin.
I'm Alexis Lidke, and I second this amendment.
It has been properly moved and seconded to amend this committee report. Is there discussion? Chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
Spencer Flood, Minnesota. The Committee for an Agriculture Education Career Development event was informed by our committee expert testimony that this topic has been raised over the past 5 years. Consistently, a recommendation has been passed by this delegate body, clearly stating it is in the interest of the students and the FFA to create this CDE. Just as consistently, this recommendation has been unacted upon because of this 15-state minimum. If we do not pass this amendment, all of the work of this committee will have been a waste. Please, I encourage you to pass this amendment.
Further discussion? Discussion. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on the amendment to amend the Committee for an Agricultural Education Career Development Events resolution by adding, whereas states are waiting for united national rules before establishing state competitions, therefore be it resolved that National FFA waive the CDE policy that requires a 15-state minimum to begin a new event. All those in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. The chair calls for a rising vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please rise. A reminder that once the vice president in your section points at you, you will sit upon their notification.
I had to break a tie yesterday on this exact topic. So that one, how many because it is too late. Well, yeah. You don't need anyone to call on a division on that one. You can call for a rising vote. Okay. Again? I don't know.
I don't know.
This counting process goes pretty quickly compared to a lot of groups that we're considering there's over 400 people.
And it's fine for me to call for a rising vote, correct? I don't have to.
Right, yeah, if you can't call a voice vote, you have to
Should I call a division first when I say rising vote? It has to be called by someone.
It's not a counting vote. That you guys routinely count.
Okay. All those opposed to the amendment, please rise.
So the affirmative has it, and I thought we did count. The affirmative has it, the amendment is adopted. Is there further discussion on the resolution as amended?
I'll count one, which is weird.
Mr. President, 321 delegates have voted in the affirmative, 118 in the negative, and Indiana has returned from their state photo and is seating 9 delegates.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The affirmatives have it, and the resolution will stand as amended. The amendment will stand adopted. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Discussion. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on the main motion to approve this committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. The ayes have it, motion passes. We will accept the committee report as read. Thank you, Weston, for your dedication to this committee. Our next report is from the Committee for Effective Communication with Members. Please join me in welcoming that committee chair, Luca Leary from California.
The Committee for Effective Communication with Members recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas the National FFA organization lacks current demographic data regarding student needs and language barriers, and whereas the National FFA organization lacks a separate option for New Horizons in Spanish, and whereas there's a disconnect between the National FFA organization and local chapters, and whereas there's a lack of an ability to navigate through current electronic resources, and whereas changes are needed to improve the quality and diversity of New Horizons content, and whereas opportunities to secure traditional print advertisements are underutilized, and whereas the National FFA organization lacks efficiency in communicating with members across all social media platforms, and whereas FFA.org and other services are underutilized and exclusive, and whereas students and advisors are unaware of the resources available, and whereas FFA.org is not currently user-friendly because it is difficult to navigate and use on mobile devices. Therefore, be it resolved that the National FFA organization seek out demographic data through a survey during membership registration. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization implement a checkbox on the student profile to specify their preferred language. And be it further resolved that the New Horizons be published in Spanish for those who indicate such as their preferred language. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization develop a mobile application for FFA.org separate from a mobile responsive website in order to connect with other members through different levels of the organization. And be it further resolved that this application replicate simplified FFA.org, AET, and media content from the national officers. And be it further resolved that the application feature a calendar that includes reminder notifications. And be it further resolved that an effort be made to reestablish regular print advertising in order to secure additional funding for the New Horizons magazine. And be it further resolved that a task force of members and alumni be established to meet once a year at National Convention with the goal of evaluating the diversity of content and quality of the New Horizons magazine. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization create a social media policy to ensure consistent and effective posts on all social media platforms, especially by catering content to each specific platform and its corresponding audience. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization further develops its use of video media, especially by including the personal views of the national officers and vlogs. And be it further resolved that all facets of agriculture remain represented on all social media platforms. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization encourages members to engage push notifications on all social media platforms. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization continues to promote media featuring the national officers. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization reevaluate that which is currently limited access content on FFA.org while maintaining the integrity and the security of member data through password protection. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization add more online tutoring, tutorials, and live chats for advisors and students about My Journey, Ag Explorer, and AET on FFA.org. And be it further resolved that FFA.org is more compatible on mobile devices and is easier to navigate. Respectfully submitted, Luke O'Leary, Chair, California FFA Association.
Please take 60 seconds to review the committee report. Y'all, I know it's early, but let's be sure that we're remaining attentive and not necessarily napping. If there's someone near us that might be falling asleep, let's be sure to bump them and be sure that we're all paying attention for the benefit of our organization. Take those 60 seconds now.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the committee report as read.
The motion has been made to adopt the committee report as read. Because this is a committee report, there is an implied second. Is there discussion? The chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
Emily Pliscott from Minnesota. Mr. Chair, I move to amend the committee's referral by striking out reevaluate that which is and inserting improve access to in its place, as well as inserting of registration, applications, and roster functions only after the word protection.
Thank you. Is that all in triplicate form?
Yes.
Thank you. Please keep the pink version and submit the other one to Valerie nearby. For clarification, this is in the third to last resolve statement, and the motion is to amend the committee's referral by striking out reevaluate that which is and inserting improving access to in its place, as well as inserting of registration, applications, and roster functions only after the word protection. Is there discussion on this amendment? Chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
Mr. Chair, we're proposing this amendment so that parents, alumni, and our community members are able to see content that is currently password protected on the FFA website without having to sign in for a password, as well as making sure that our members are protected all the while. We chose to change the wording here so it is clear that we intend to keep our information transparent and make sure that it's opened up. Thank you.
Thank you for your discussion. To my own neglect, I forgot to ask for a second. Is there a second to this amendment? Chair recognizes the delegate from Montana.
Seth Rectal, Montana. I second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Discussion. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on this amendment to strike the words reevaluate that which is and inserting improve access to in its place, as well as inserting of registration, applications, and roster functions only after the word protection. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. The ayes have it. Amendment passes. The motion will now read, the resolve statement will now read, that the National FFA organization improve access to currently limited access content on FFA.org, while remaining the integrity and security of member data through password protection of registration, applications, and roster functions only, and be it further. This motion is, or discussion on this motion as amended. Thank you. Further discussion on this motion? Discussion. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the committee report as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. The committee report will stand as amended. Thank you, Luke, for your work on this committee.
Thank you.
As the committee chairs of the Committee for Accommodating Students with Special Needs, the inclusion of unpaid supervised agricultural experience programs and chapter member programs and opportunities report to the Secretary Station. Please turn your attention once again to the stage for another selection from our National FFA talent. Thank you so much for your performance. That was pretty legit. I don't think any noises like that could ever come out of my mouth that would sound nearly as good. We have an announcement from the Secretary.
Mr. President, the delegates from Alabama left to take their state photo.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Our next report will be from the Committee for Accommodating Students with Special Needs. Please help me in welcoming Liddy Vinton from the state of Nebraska.
The Committee for Accommodating Students with Special Needs recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas there is a lack of awareness, content, and resources available regarding students with special needs, and whereas the current special need accommodation form is hard to find and the process for completing the form is inefficient and overly complicated, and whereas there is a lack of training for state officers in relation to interacting with students with special needs, and whereas the agriculture teacher makes a large impact on their students' involvement in FFA, therefore, be it resolved that there will be a video tutorial provided by the National FFA organization on how to find and fill out a special needs request form, and be it further resolved that the process for completing the form be streamlined, and be it further resolved that the National FFA organization establishes a training workshop for state officers to help understand how to properly engage with students with special needs. And be it further resolved that teachers be encouraged to use local resources or curriculum resources from the National FFA organization in attempt to broaden the mindset of local teachers. Respectfully submitted, Lydia Vinton, Chair, Nebraska FFA Association.
Please take 60 seconds to review this report. The chair requests that Zachary Duda from the Connecticut FFA Association please report to the secretary station with his voting placard cards. Sorry for any awkwardness this has incurred.
Mr. President, I move that the committee report be accepted as read.
Thank you. Because this is a committee report, the motion has been made in the adoption of the committee report. Because this is a committee report, there's an implied second, as previously stated. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the committee report as read signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. The committee report will stand as read. Lydia, thank you for your work on this committee. Seriously. Our next committee report will be presented by Ryan Matthews of Ohio. Delegates, please welcome Ryan as he delivers the report on behalf of the Committee for the Inclusion of Unpaid Supervised Agricultural Experience Programs.
The Committee for the Inclusion of Unpaid Supervised Agricultural Experience Programs recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Whereas the American degree is a prestigious award, and whereas there is a lack of education of requirements for the American degree, and whereas there is a lack of education as to what qualifies as investments and earnings, and whereas the journey to earning an American degree does not begin after high school, but when you become a member, and whereas there is a lack of data on members and associations regarding SAEs. Therefore, be it resolved that the American degree requirements should remain unaltered, and be it further resolved that the National FFA organization should provide a database with examples and solutions for meeting the requirements of the American degrees, including a clear definition of the degree itself, and be it further resolved that the National FFA organization should provide resources as to what qualifies as investments and earnings for degree applicants, and be it further resolved that the National FFA organization should create a program to put first-year members on track to earn the American degree. And be it further resolved that the National FFA organization should create a main database to gather statistics related to types of SAEs and proficiency awards currently in operation among members. Respectfully submitted, Ryan Matthews, Committee Chair, Ohio FFA Association.
Thank you. Please take 60 seconds to review this committee report.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the committee report as read.
The motion has been made to adopt the committee report as read. Because this is a committee report, there's an implied second. Is there discussion? Chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Madeline Wenninger from Minnesota. I move to amend the report of the Committee for the Inclusion of Unpaid Supervised Agricultural Experience Programs by inserting at the beginning, whereas the purpose of SAE is to provide a student-led, instructor-supervised, work-based learning experience that results in measurable outcomes within a predefined, agreed-upon set of agriculture, food, and natural resources, technical standards, and career-ready practices aligned to a career plan of study, and whereas, according to the SAE for All Teacher Guide by the National Council for Agricultural Education, the diversity of students served by today's programs requires a new definition and approach to SAE, one that aligns SAE with 21st century learners. Changes include new types of SAEs, a new approach to supervision, and a focus on measurable learning outcomes rather than only dollars earned or hours documented. However, the fundamentals remain the same, and SAE must be supervised, related to agriculture, and provide a rich and meaningful work-based or experiential learning experience. Additionally, striking out resolved that the American degree requirements should remain unaltered, and inserting after itself in the second resolution and pathways for students with unpaid SAEs to earn the American degree.
Thank you. Please submit your triplicate form. For clarification, it will be repeated. The amendment is to insert at the beginning of this report, whereas the purpose of SAEs is to provide a student-led, instructor-supervised, work-based learning experience that results in measurable outcomes within a predefined, agreed-upon set of agriculture, food, and natural resource technical standards and career-ready practices aligned to the career plan of study. And whereas, according to the SAE for All Teacher's Guide, by the National Council for Agricultural Education, the diversity of students served by today's programs requires a new definition and approach to SAE, one that aligns SAE with 21st century learners. Changes include new types of SAEs, a new approach to supervision, and a focus on measurable learning outcomes rather than only dollars earned or hours documented. However, the fundamental remains the same. An SAE must be supervised, related to agriculture, and provide a rich and meaningful work-based or experiential learning experience. Additionally, the amendment would strike out resolved that the American degree requirement should remain unaltered, and insert after itself, the word itself, in the second resolution, and pathways for students with unpaid SAEs to earn the American degree. Is there a second on this amendment? To recognize the delegate from West Virginia.
Michaela Hargis, West Virginia. I second the amendment.
Before we begin discussion, I'd like to call Mr. Jakes to the stage. Just for clarification, we would recess at this point and then
come back this evening with a written copy.
Okay. For clarification purposes, and if we would like a written copy of this amendment so we can further discuss it, we can move to recess. If that is in favor of the delegate body, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. We'll continue. Is there any discussion on this amendment to the main motion? To recognize the delegate from Minnesota.
Mr. Chairman, delegates, I believe this amendment will deeply benefit the National FFA organization and its members. This morning, we heard from the national officers during session about various FFA members who have made a change and an impact. Additionally, they have traveled around the nation meeting members, and they feel that unpaid SAEs are a priority as well, as we have seen that in the report of the National Program of Activities Committee, where it says, whereas requirements for awards and degrees earned through unpaid SAEs are increasingly difficult, therefore, be it resolved that National FFA staff explore avenues for including unpaid SAE projects for degree attainment. We additionally listened to Mr. Brown talk about the fact that the FFA is going to change, just as agriculture is. We need to keep up with these changes and include those diverse SAEs. The objective of this committee was to find a way to include unpaid SAEs better in our organization. However, this committee report does not reflect inclusiveness and open-mindedness. Our best interest is in the members, so as state officers, we need to remember that in the decisions that we make. By including the definition of SAE and its purpose, we are better able to understand the requirements for SAEs and how they relate to the American FFA degree. I would like to remind the delegation that it is a degree, not an award, and we must give everyone an equal opportunity to obtain it. Again, I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Before handing the mic back over, please state your name for the minutes.
Madeline Weniger, Minnesota.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this amendment? Chair recognizes the delegate from Oregon.
Jensen Kemble, Oregon. The previous speaker continued to talk about supervised agricultural experiences, but those are separate from the American degree. It is not the same thing. When we are talking about the American degree, it is a prestigious award that we need to keep that way, and some of that needs to include being able to budget and properly manage monetary expenses and investments. So that is why in our committee, we discussed keeping the requirements for the $2,000 for people who have unpaid SAEs to invest and earn. That is all.
Further discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Kansas.
John Kennedy, representing the state of Kansas. I disagree with the previous speaker, as the American degree is based upon SAEs. While it does not reflect an SAE, it is based upon those. And changing these requirements would offer opportunities to members who don't have the monetary ability to invest in different types of SAEs. It is moving away from the category of an award to a degree. It is a prestigious award that allows FFA members to be recognized for their hard work and dedication, not necessarily what they're able to invest. I urge all of you delegates to vote with this amendment so that we as an organization can pass new requirements for the American degree.
Further discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Utah.
Is this on? I'm Weston Adams from Utah, and I would like to encourage a no vote on this amendment because of the prestigiousness of this award, and there are other ways to get this award. It doesn't all have to be income on the SAE. It can go in the form of scholarships and expenses paid along with your SAE. Thank you.
Further discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Iowa.
Caleb Finnegan, representing Iowa. I've heard a lot of talk about SAEs and monetary value. I want to remind everybody, according to the Constitution, Article 5, Section B, the objective of an SAE is to prepare a student for a future career in agriculture. Therefore, I don't believe monetary value should be based on how well your SAE performs.
Further discussion. Since the previous speaker spoke in favor, is there any discussion against, just so we can be sure to ensure fairness? All right. Chair recognizes the delegate from Ohio.
Mylan Paz-Derrick from Ohio. I do agree that this is a prestigious award. And as a prestigious award, it should be awarded to those who work the most and put in the most effort to whatever it is that they do. And whether that is unpaid or paid, I believe it should be awarded to those people.
Chair recognizes the delegate from Indiana.
Owen Kuhn from Indiana. Indiana recognizes that there should be changes to the American degree made. However, if you turn to page 47 of your delegate handbook, under the research findings, you'll find that there's a lack of quantitative data to base a change off of. We understand that this is going to be a problem in future years, and if you look at the bottom of our committee report, we ask that there is more information collected, a database created, so that in future years this can be handled, a decision can be made based on facts, not just feelings. So for this year, we would like to vote this amendment down.
Chair recognizes the delegate from Minnesota.
I rise to a point of information.
What is your point?
Can we get some clarification on the definition of an American degree, if it is considered a degree or an award? From a National FFA leader, please.
Could we please have a response from the staff for this point of information? Can we get a name for that point of information while we secure that information for you?
Madeline Weniger, Minnesota.
Thank you.
If y'all could, we're going to take a moment and then get back with you as soon as we can.
Practicing for American FFA degree ceremony. Are you getting used to this? I'm not. Okay. Another hour, so hopefully next year. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. All right. Is the majority of your SAEs unpaid? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. Appropriate. I do meet the monetary requirement, but everything else, about $7,000 of it is unpaid. I had a couple of unpaid ones, so there's obviously a scholarship money and a fundraiser that really just like a lot of it. Yeah. I'd like to introduce Mr. Josh Bledsoe, Chief Operating Officer of the National FFA Organization, for clarification on this point of information.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the best thing to do is to go to the official manual, and so that's what we wanted to pull up and make sure that we read directly from the manual. And so degrees are rewarded to FFA members, and you use the term award in the case of a verb. So as the manual says, FFA degrees are awarded, such as the chapter degree is awarded at the chapter level. State associations award top members with the state FFA degree. So degrees are classified as a type of award for us, but really they're based on a set of criteria. So they're not judged against each other. If a student meets the criteria set by the Constitution, as referred to in the manual as we just read, then the degree is awarded to that individual. So I guess if we need an additional clarification from the delegate body to help delineate between those two terms, but a degree is awarded based on criteria set.
Thank you, Mr. Bledsoe.
President.
Further discussion on this amendment? Chair recognizes the delegate from Kentucky.
Braden Burks from Kentucky. I would encourage you all to vote against this amendment. There are many conversion factors that allow unpaid hours within the American degree. Also, in the FFA mission statement, it states the idea of promoting career success. And career success is involved with money. And us as agriculturalists, us as FFA leaders, we need to encourage our members in order to go out and get jobs one day, and that involves money. So therefore, I urge you to vote against this amendment.
Further discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Ohio.
Maggie Hovermail from Ohio. Delegate body, I would like to encourage all of you to kind of get outside of your own head and to think of our members. There are many of our members out there that do not have the opportunity to be raised on a farm or to work on a farm or to work in agriculture in general. There's a lot of members out there that the only opportunity that they have to be involved in our industry is through unpaid hours. I encourage you all to vote in favor of this amendment, because how fair is it for us to be pushing for diversity if we are not going to let these members achieve and be awarded the American FFA degree?
Chair recognizes the delegate from Illinois.
So, in regards to the last speaker, I understand the purpose of diversity, and me not coming from a farm, I shared in that same struggle where I did not come from a farm, so I did not know what I was going to do. So it was then that I had that conversation with my advisor, because that's where our advisors are there. Our advisors are there to help them find jobs, and our SAEs to help us get money in order to have an American degree. Our advisors are there to help us. If you are struggling, I encourage anyone who is struggling, any member who is struggling, to talk to their advisor. This degree was founded in the 1930s to build FFA members on good business practices in production agriculture. Now, in the 1980s, we transitioned to make it a more diverse organization and change it to the National FFA organization. But we still retain those same values of good business practices in the American degree. The state of Illinois feels that we should keep and retain these good business practices and retain the integrity of the American degree.
Can we get a name quickly?
Oh, Joey Beartier from Illinois.
Thank you. Further discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Louisiana.
Sam Tarpley from Louisiana. I disagree with the previous speaker for a variety of reasons. You see, our organization, we promote progressive agriculture. We say it in our creed, we say it every day. Even Dr. Brown eloquently alluded to it. But we must ask ourselves, how can we truly be progressive if we're not changing to support the growing needs of today's face of agriculture? As the previous speaker alluded to, we had to change in the 1980s. But now it's 2017, and I believe it's time for change once again. Let us all remember when we were freshmen and we were receiving our green hand degree. It was not because of what simply we earned, but it was what we did to achieve that. It was the hard work that we put in, not simply the money that we gained from it. Let us all remember that it isn't just a supervised agricultural investment. It's an experience that allows us to grow and develop our role in American agriculture. As an FFA member, not only in my state, but in our great organization, I urge you all to support this so that we can continue to be progressive and grow as an organization to in turn grow American agriculture. That is all.
Chair recognizes the delegate from Arkansas.
I'm Brady Gentry from Arkansas, and I urge you to vote against this amendment because in the requirements for an American degree, it says that there is an investment of monetary amount. This does not mean that the SAE has to pay the money to the member. This means that it can come from any source, inside or outside of FFA, as long as the investment is being paid to the SAE. In the committee, the expert said that even the college tuition can be put towards this American degree. So with that being said, I urge you to vote against this amendment.
Chair recognizes the delegate from Connecticut.
Allie Schneider from Connecticut. I move to previous question.
Previous question has been moved. Is there a second? Chair recognizes the delegate from New Hampshire.
Dustin Peterson from New Hampshire, and I second the motion for previous question.
It's been properly moved and seconded. This motion requires a 2/3 vote, so we'll do so by standing, not necessarily counting. All those in favor of moving previous question, please stand. Be seated. All those opposed, please stand. There are 2/3 in the affirmative. Motion passes. What is your inquiry? The purpose of calling previous question is to close debate. Yeah, because this limits the abilities of delegates, that's why it requires a 2/3 vote. Thank you for your parliamentary inquiry. We are now voting on the amendment. Because the whereas statements are stated clearly, we'll simply read the resolve statements for the sake of time. The amendment moves to strike out resolved that the American degree requirements should remain unaltered, and insert after the word itself in the second resolution, and pathways for students with unpaid SAEs to earn the American degree. All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. No. Noes have it. Motion fails. Chair recognizes the delegate, there's a call for division. Please take the vote by rising. All those in favor signify by rising. No count is necessary. Please be seated. All those opposed signify by rising. Be seated. Negatives have it. The amendment fails. We are now back to the main motion. Is there discussion on the main motion? Chair recognizes the delegate from Iowa. Your placard was upside down, just for reference. That was not an insult, just for clarification.
Totally fine. Caleb Finnegan, representing Iowa. I move to reconsider the last vote.
There's been a motion to reconsider. Is there a second?
Is he asking for a count? We don't reconsider a vote.
For clarification, are you moving to reconsider to reevaluate the count of the vote? Can we get him a handheld, please? Please restate your name as you receive the handheld.
Caleb Finnegan, Iowa. I'm moving to reconsider the amendment.
One moment. Delegate from Iowa, did you vote on the prevailing side of this motion? For clarification, did you vote no on the amendment? Thank you. We'll take a short pause for information clarification purposes. Can you repeat that in the microphone along with your name?
Claire Bainey from Indiana. Point of order, you cannot move to reconsider a subsidiary motion, and the motion to amend was a subsidiary motion.
Thank you for your information. Your point is well taken. This is the information we were looking for. Is there any further discussion on this main motion? Discussion, discussion. The chair recognizes the delegate from Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to strike out amend by striking out the statement, be it resolved, the National FFA organization should create a program to put first-year members on track to earn the American degree, and be it further.
Can we get a name, please?
Trey Campbell from Wyoming.
Thank you. Is there a second on this motion to amend? Since there is no second, the motion dies on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Sorry. For clarification, we will restate that amendment for the minutes. Please get a handheld to our delegate from Wyoming.
The amendment was to strike out, resolve that the National FFA organization should create a program to put first-year members on track to earn the American degree, and be it further.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the main motion to approve this committee report as read? Discussion, discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Georgia.
Jake Harris from Georgia. I'm against approving this report as read. I'm actually an unpaid SAE, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, excuse me, conversation. I'm actually an unpaid SAE myself, and I work with the Farm Bureau and in Ag Ed and supporting and teaching students in elementary schools. And I believe that I should not be held back. And I'm supporting agriculture, and I believe even though I'm not paid, I should still be able to receive my American degree. I'd like to encourage you to vote against this motion.
Further discussion. Discussion, discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate from Puerto Rico.
Delvin from Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico Association, most SAE are unpaid, mostly because of our economy problems. To keep the few members that want to grow or keep growing on FFA, we should approve. Sorry for my English. Non-approve the amendment.
Thank you. Can we get a last name, please?
Rivera.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this main motion? Chair recognizes the delegate from South Carolina.
My name is Matthew Bonnet from South Carolina. I would just like to say that a lot of internships in agricultural-related industries are unpaid. There are some that are paid, but there are many more that are unpaid. I myself have participated in 2 unpaid internships and know many people that have participated in unpaid internships. If we approve this motion, then we eliminate the possibility for those people to use those hours without a paid SAE in order to get their American degree.
Thank you. Further discussion. Delegate from Minnesota.
Madeline Weniger, Minnesota. Our state actually got in contact with the AET, and although this is just representative of 30 states in America, over 46% of SAEs were unpaid. How can we justify to keep those unpaid SAEs from earning their American degree? Additionally, what defines success? Like the representative from South Carolina just stated, a lot of internships are unpaid, and we are taking part in those internships so that we can gain skills, very similar to SAE projects. In the National FFA organization, we encourage research, exploratory, service learning, and school-based enterprise SAEs, and we encourage those. However, oftentimes those SAEs are not able to earn their American degree. Again, I urge a no vote on this main motion.
Thank you. It is now 12:21. We will go until 12:25 and then recess at whatever location we end up at until this evening for time purposes. Chair recognizes the delegate from California.
Bobby Marchi from California. We move for previous question.
Previous question has been moved. Is there a second? Do you recognize the delegate from Washington?
Seth Smith from Washington, and I second the motion.
It has been properly moved and seconded to move previous question. We will now proceed to a rising vote. All those in favor signify by standing. Be seated. All those opposed, please rise. Previous question has been ordered. We will vote on the resolution. All those in favor of approving this committee report as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed signify by saying no. No. We will proceed to a rising vote. All in favor signify by rising. Be seated. All opposed signify by rising. The affirmative has it. The affirmative has it. This committee is approved as read. Thank you, Ryan, for your service to this committee. And thank you to the delegates for your discussion on this committee report. We'll now recess until this evening session, where we'll resume with the final committee report. One moment. Please remain seated. That was my mistake. We've come to a point where we must put the session in recess. That's why the script's up here. Our next business session will be held this evening, immediately following General Session 3. You're expected to attend Session 3 and then remain for the delegate session immediately following. Please remember to bring all of your delegate materials to the business session this evening. There will be a delegate group picture at 1 p.m. this afternoon in Hall A of the Indiana Convention Center. Please attend if available. What questions are there about the schedule? Fantastic. Thank you for your hard work, concentration, and efficiency today. Assuming the role of a delegate, you have taken on the challenge of speaking on behalf of every single member in this organization. You hold our organization in your hands with the decisions you have made throughout this process. Madam Secretary, do you have any further announcements at this time?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. I now declare the session in recess until approximately 9:30 p.m. this evening. Thank you for catching that, though. I appreciate it. Because knowing me, I would just go into habit. Yes, sir. Yeah. Luckily, Shane covers all of his bases.